Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Legal Regulations of Dolphinariums in Kazakhstan. Thank you so much for joining us today, and greetings to those who will be watching the recording on YouTube. I'm Lucia Guy, the Managing Director of the Institute of Animal Law of Asia, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Institute of Animal Law of Asia, or ILA, is the educational research center that focuses on animal law issues in Asia and the world. At the ILA, we provide research projects which include animal law in Asian countries, on topic, on category, and on species animal law articles. This year, we have launched two projects which are enhancing legal regulations for aquatic animals in Kazakhstan and farmed animal welfare in mainland China. These projects are supported and sponsored by the Center for Animal Law Studies, Lewis and Clark Law School. We also have our news source, Asia Animal Law Bulletin, which provides the latest updates on animals in Asian countries and regions. Last year, we have launched the Alliance for Animal Law of Asia, which is the international networking campaign that aims to cooperate with national, regional, and global animal organizations and aims to improve the awareness in respective countries and regions. You can support our work by donating or sharing our website and materials. Not too long ago, we have launched our own shop where you can make either a general donation or fund one of our research projects on farmed animals, wildlife, companion animals, aquatic animals, or any other research project, or fund one of our animal law webinars or translation services. Since the beginning of this year, we have held quite a few webinars. You can watch the recordings on our YouTube channel, which is Institute of Animal Law of Asia, or go to ilasia.org/events. Please check out our website, ilasia.org, and follow us on social media. It's iAnimal Law Asia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. Today's webinar is organized under the project I'm leading, which is enhancing legal regulations for aquatic animals in Kazakhstan within the Global Ambassador Program launched by the Center for Animal Law Studies, Lewis and Clark Law School. This wouldn't have been possible without the CAL support. Our guest today is Dr. Maria Baideldinova, the assistant professor of KIMEP University and the author of the first animal law course in the region. Maria is my former professor, and she actually inspired me to study law and study animal law. She also contributed to the draft of the Animal Welfare Act in Kazakhstan, which will be the first animal protection tool in the country, and it should be enacted soon. We'll be answering questions after the presentation, so please drop your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you so much for being with us today, Maria, and we are all looking forward to your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now let me share my screen. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Alu, for your invitation to speak at this platform where many famous experts were talking before me. So it is an honor for me to talk here. And my today's topic, as announced above, is legal regulation of dolphinariums or dolphinaria in Kazakhstan. So this is the brief outline of my today's presentation. I do not know the background of my audience in this sphere, but I suppose that since you opted to follow this webinar, you're somewhat aware of who are dolphins, who are beluga whales, which are the issues, the problems they face in captivity. But still, I want to, before addressing the main topic, the core topic of my presentation, I want to make this brief introduction to the problem in general. So I will first give the definition of dolphinarium, which is needed for the purpose of this presentation. So what do we understand with this term in this presentation? We'll talk about briefly again, how do they work, how do Dolphinaria work, which kind of activity do they conduct, whether it is more a zoo-like establishment or a circus-like establishment. I will talk about briefly which animals are used in dolphinariums and some facts about them very briefly. Then we'll look at, so after having looked at who are the animals that are being used, how they're used in dolphinariums, we'll see at the problems, which, how does the system work? Keeping an animal in captivity is not the first time that it happens. Is there something wrong with this? What is actually that bothers us so much and all that? After having considered different issues and problems the dolphins and other aquatic mammals face in captivity, we will look at how Kazakhstani legislation addresses this issue. Namely, what are the legal provisions regarding dolphinariums in Kazakhstan, and does the law solve the problems in the sphere? And then we will talk about the perspectives. So here I can anticipate that I will talk about the draft law Mr. Guy has mentioned at the beginning, and well, about the perspectives of this development. So dolphinariums. For the purpose of this presentation, I use this definition that dolphinariums are aquariums for cetaceans and other aquatic mammals. In general, this term is used, for instance, Wikipedia suggests the definition that dolphinariums are aquariums for dolphins, because if there are other animals, it should be called differently. But for the purpose of this presentation, I use this term. So when we say dolphinarium, we mean all those kind of establishment, well, where all the aquatic mammals are performing. How do they work? There are many dolphinariums around the world. The amount is being decreasing because of number of protests, because people are realizing that this is not the best practice, the most humane practice. But I am looking mostly to the country where I live. So in Kazakhstan, animals are kept for public performance or for public entertainment. So it is not a zoo-like establishment, or it is not a rehabilitation center. Indeed, Kazakhstan, as you may know, is a landlocked country. So we do not have, apart from Caspian Sea, we do not have the exit to the sea. So there would be no sense to keep aquatic mammals for the purpose of rehabilitation or something. So they're kept purely for public performances and for other types of public entertainment, like swimming with dolphins, not for medical purposes, but simply for entertainment, or conduction of birthdays or weddings in dolphinarium. In fact, the advertisement you see here on the slide says that all around the year, Dolphinarium is offering to conduct birthday celebrations, And you see this picture of dolphin apparently smiling, but we know how tricky this smile is. Which animals are used in dolphinariums in Kazakhstan? So far, as far as I know, the dolphinariums which I analyzed, 2 dolphinariums in the city of Almaty and 1 in Nur-Sultan, they use these 3 types of aquatic mammals. They are bottlenose dolphins, beluga whales, and seals. Talking about some facts about cetaceans. First of all, cetaceans are aquatic mammals except for the seals. So they are dolphins, whales, and so on. They are highly intelligent. Everybody knows that dolphins are said to be the second most intelligent animal after the human being. Some say that is the first. I am not biologist and I'm not animal psychologist, so I cannot distinguish which of them are, which of this information is a fact and which is city legend. So I use those which I am sure that they are facts. They are highly intelligent. They display self-awareness, including the ability to recognize themselves in the mirror. This is based on the scientific research. So this is why it is here on my slide. So they're self-aware. It means that they are already quite, they have quite developed intelligence. To prove that they have this developed intelligence, also they are known to use tools. For instance, wild bottlenose dolphins in Australia use sponges as a tool to protect their beaks while feeding on the seabed. And the most interesting thing here is that the skill to protect the beak with the sponge has been passed down through generations. This is another thing, another criteria, another indication of intelligence, that the elder generations live not only to recreate and to reproduce, but also to transfer knowledge. And this is something that is common for orcs, for example, or killer whales. They are not used in Kazakhstan so far, at least, but this is what is known about orcas, that the animals continue living far beyond the reproduction period, which is very particular and not very common among animals. And why it is so? Because they use this, let's say, grandmothers and grandfathers used, I used to transfer the information to the younger generations. And this is also a clear indication of highly developed intelligence. An individual animal has a significant role within their society. This also has been demonstrated by numerous scientific research, that to the difference, for instance, of bees or other insects or other animals who live in groups, the animals with highly developed intellect have this characteristic that each individual means something particular in their society. Like for the elephants, like for human beings, it is the same with crustaceans. Cetaceans, sorry, that every group member has a particular role and has this significant, particular, dedicated role to that animal. As I mentioned already, they transmit, they're able to transfer the knowledge to each other within the group, or throughout generations. So, for instance, the previous example of dolphins who use the sponge to protect their beaks is particular for that particular group of animals in that particular region of Australia, because that particular group has somehow found out that there is this possibility to use this tool, and they spread this information inside the group, but other dolphins who live outside the group do not know that. So it is not an instinct, but a knowledge which they manage to transfer one to another. They have their language. It is also widely known, and they try to interpret this language. They try to learn. There are substantive studies also in this regard. I will not go much into that, but this has been demonstrated. Something that is needed for our presentation, because we'll talk about the criteria, the welfare requirements for these animals. Bottlenose dolphins have home ranges as large as 300 kilometers. So imagining any dolphinarium, even the best one, even the best practice in the best organized country, if it is a captivity, surely it will not cover this amount of square kilometers. They swim many kilometers a day, simply playing, or because they are exercising, or because they are chasing food, or for any other reason, but they swim many kilometers a day. They exercise a lot. Whereas in captivity, they barely swim 100 meters a day, because what they have to do is to swim back and forth in this limited pool. And so being highly intelligent and being so limited in their emotion, they develop obsessive compulsive behavior, like some repeated kind of movement or repeated behavior, or depression, just like humans would, or maybe even to greater extent, because there are studies of animal behaviorists who say that since animals are very physical, so they feel a lot what does their body say, sometimes more than a human, because for instance, if we know that we have to undergo certain painful intervention, we know that, well, now I will be feeling bad, but soon I will feel better, because this is something that is needed when we cure our teeth, for instance. But for animals, it is different. Not necessarily they are able to predict that this particular physical state will finish. So for them, physical suffering is much more severe than for humans. This is what some of the research say. So being limited, for them being highly intelligent and being limited in their emotion leads to great stress. Cetaceans spend less than 20% of their time at water surface, and many species spend far less time than this. Well, for bottlenose dolphins, that is about 20%. But when we talk about captivity, it rises up to 80%, because they are asked to perform, because the swimming pool is not deep enough, because they are asked to even jump out from the swimming pool and to stay by swimming pool side, completely out of water. So this is these are the conditions, so completely unnatural. And finally, they are known predators. They chase and eat fresh feed, whereas in captivity, they're fed mostly with dead fish, at least with regards to our country. Talking about the intelligence, Carl Sagan, who is a famous astrophysicist, I must tell that this citation I found in a book which regards animals. He said that while some dolphins are reported to have learned English, up to several thousands words used in correct context, no human being has been reported to have learned Dolphinese. I can tell that the same probably can regard gorillas and dogs and even cats. I say even, no offense, but who learned with time to interpret perfectly the human behavior and even human language. Whereas for humans, even for those who directly work with dolphins, not necessarily it is mutual. Now, we talked about these highly intelligent animals. We talked about dolphinariums. Now, what's wrong with all this? I gave already some tips on the previous slide that there are problems with food, with space, but now to sum up. Well, starting from the very beginning, from the very basic things, the first problem which appears is ownership. So who actually is entitled to possess an aquatic animal? Can I buy or can I not buy an aquatic animal? Do I need a license? Do I need certain permissions? Do I need to register my activity somehow? Do I need to provide some proof of being able to keep that animal, or I'm allowed to simply to buy it and to let it disappear? So those questions, this is the very first, the very basic thing. Purely legal, has very indirectly to do with the welfare. But this is the first thing. Then things which directly have to do with the animal welfare: space, necessary space. So necessarily there should be a normative act which somehow describes which space should be given the minimum requirement of space for this kind of animals. Quality of water, because whether it is a salty water or whether it is the sweet water, how it is being cleaned, whether they use chemical substances for this, whether these chemical substances are applicable to those pools. So this is also should be regulated in some normative act. Quality of food, the necessity to perform unnatural tricks like jumping on the side of the swimming pool, or like letting a human being sitting on the animal, or like carrying a standing thing on their noses, how sometimes we see in the pictures. So performing those unnatural tricks, which necessarily leads also to certain stress. In general, captivity is stressful. So keeping an animal in captivity also should have certain legal regulations. And of course, a particular, the most painful probably, and in a separate discourse, are mobile dolphinariums or traveling dolphinariums. So rules are necessary to regulate all this, because all these are problems which a dolphin may face in a dolphinarium. I do not pretend that this is the full list of problems, but at least what I identified as those most straightforward. Now, finally, to my natural habitat, to law. What are the legal provisions regarding dolphinariums in Kazakhstan? I see that there is a question in among questions. Should I answer it now, or should I address it later?
No, we'll be answering questions after, at the end.
Okay, fine. So I'm continuing. So my natural habitat, legal provisions. First, we start looking at legal acts which have higher hierarchy, place in a hierarchy of legal acts. So we look at environmental code. Environmental code of the Republic of Kazakhstan, by the way, has been reformed this year. It has the reform was conducted in January 2021, and it came in force in July of this year, so just a couple of months ago. And I must tell that new environmental code is a very good progressive document which follows international standards with regards to many issues. It is very well structured. It is very clear in its ideas. But environmental code is environmental code. It deals with wild animals, and it looks only partly, it touches upon the regulations which regard animals in captivity only with regards to endangered species. In accordance with the legislation of Kazakhstan, bottlenose dolphins, belugas, and seals are not in the list. So environmental code goes here. It is not applicable to dolphinariums. Then we look a little bit more down by the hierarchy, by the hierarchy of legal acts, and we looked into the law on protection, reproduction, and usage of animal world. This is its title: Law on Protection, Reproduction, and Usage of Animal World. This law is also about wild animals. Dolphinariums are not mentioned in this law. In general, I should anticipate probably that dolphinariums, this term, by now is not used in our legislation at all. So let's see what in general does it say. Dolphinariums are not mentioned, but Article 1, which contains all the terms and definitions, mentions aquariums. So since we say that dolphinarium is aquarium for those animals, let's look at the definition of aquarium. well, it does not define aquarium, but it's we find this term in the definition of zoological collection. Now, here is an important thing. I don't know if you want to pay more attention to this. This is the definition. So zoological collection is collection of stuffed animals, eggs, animal derivatives, so animal body parts, objects of animal world, including wild animals in zoos, zoological gardens, circuses, aquariums. So here we find the term aquarium, oceanariums, and now attention, which have scientific, cultural, educational, and aesthetic value. It means that in accordance with our legislation, dolphinariums, which we already describe as an establishment where animals are not kept for scientific purposes, where they do not demonstrate natural behavior, so they are useless for educational purposes. It is purely entertainment in its wild definition. It is considered as a zoological collection, which is which falls here under this definition: cultural, aesthetic. Well, I let you judge whether it is the case. Under the law of protection, reproduction, and usage of animal world, we have these rules which are based on law. They're called rules on creation and state accounting of zoological collections. Now, when you see this this title, you would think, now finally we found here is the document which would provide us with the rules on how to create a dolphinarium, which documents I need to supply, which proofs of meeting which criteria should there be. But in fact, as written on the slides, it is a document which consists only of 3 articles. And all these 3 articles are purely dedicated to the bureaucratic issues, namely declaration of the obligation to register the zoological collection. So it simply says that the zoological collection, which corresponds to this definition, should be registered once created. So it does not care about how it is created, where you bought those animals, in which conditions they're kept, simply that you have to register that. And the process of the registration without any indications of welfare requirements. So again, if we want to know which space is necessary for an animal, with what to feed the animal, and so on, no legal regulation so far. Another sub-branch or sub-direction of legal regulations here is law on veterinary medicine. So law on protection, reproduction, usage regulates wild animals. Law on veterinary medicine was originally created to regulate agricultural animals, but then it has been expanded to regulate other animals. So let's see if that law answers our questions and addresses our problems. Again, dolphinariums are not mentioned. Article 25 of the law of veterinary medicine mentions aquariums, but again, does not contain any further relevant norms. Law on veterinary medicine, however, sends us to sanitary and veterinary rules. It says that aquariums should be organized with requirements following the sanitary and veterinary requirements. But if we look inside those requirements, again, dolphinariums are not mentioned. Aquariums are mentioned, but they simply say that they should follow these rules. These rules, the sanitary and veterinary rules, are mostly created, as I said before, for agricultural animals. So it talks about some kind of illnesses, methods of their prevention, methods of quarantine against those diseases, but no particular norms which would regard aquatic mammals. And again, this is probably because we do not have naturally living aquatic mammals. Well, there are seals actually on Caspian Sea, but it is not so much widely spread phenomenon. Maybe because of that, or maybe because simply they have been overlooked so far. However, these norms also, these rules also do not contain the necessary norms. Finally, there is another document which is called Rules on Keeping Animals in Captivity and Semi-Captivity, which is a wonderful document. I must tell that it is a very good, very modern and progressive document. It steps away from the usual anthropocentric approach. It is finally concentrated purely on animal welfare. It talks about necessary space. It mentions some general norms which regard feeding animals, veterinary service, so all the 5 freedoms of animal welfare. But again, it looks like that when drafting these rules, aquatic mammals were overlooked, because even from the wording of the rules, you may notice that the legislator in that case was thinking about terrestrial animals. So, for instance, that they have to be provided with water 24/7, that they need to be, well, I don't remember exactly the wording of certain norms, but it transpires from the text of the rules that aquatic mammals are overlooked. Cetaceans are not mentioned. Now, to sum up all these regulations, when we talk about ownership, yes, it is regulated partly by civil code, which says that anyone is free to have any property unless there are particular legal limitations. There are no particular legal limitations with regards to bottlenose dolphins or beluga whales or seals, because they are not protected as endangered species. So any citizen without any permission is allowed to buy those and to own those legally, which is already a scandal, to my opinion. No necessity to prove the capacity to keep those animals. Actually, the same problem we have with other wild fauna like lions or leopards, which sometimes appear on sale somewhere. So partly regulated in a sense that civil code allows that. And then rules on zoological collections, I call them briefly like this, which again say that anyone can do that. Physical persons or legal entities can keep animals. The only requirement is that this collection, this dolphinarium, should be registered in the particular register. No regulations with regards to space, diet, environment, how it should look like, what does it mean enriched environment in this case. And no indication, no prohibition, no regulation of mobile or traveling dolphinariums. What about punishment? And talking about mobile dolphinariums, this is the first thing which comes into force. The picture which you see here, probably you have seen, because some 5 years ago it passed several times through the news in ex-Soviet Union. There was this traveling mobile dolphinarium in Russian Federation. This time it was the picture was taken in Perm. The animal that you see here is the beluga whale. There are actually 2 here in the swimming pool. And as you see, they are kept like this in these horrible conditions in the stagnant water. The smell of stagnant water was heard, as witnesses say, even at a distance. So there is no doubt that the water is dirty, and you can even see it in a picture. So keeping animal in addition that we are keeping in mind that it is a sentient, intelligent animal, keeping in these conditions, in own feces, being fed with dead fish, isn't it that cruel? Can we consider this as cruelty? Now, we have a norm in our criminal code, which is Article 316 on cruel treatment of animals. So this case, which we which a normal, sane human being would say that this is cruel, let's see how is treated by Article 316. The Criminal Code of the Republic of Kazakhstan punishes only deliberate crimes. So deliberate causation of injury or deliberate causation of death. So if it happened by negligence, if I have forgotten to feed or I have forgotten to change the water, it is not a cruel treatment under the Article of 316. In addition, there are additional criteria that this should be done either with the usage of sadistic methods or in presence of minors or out of motives of hooliganism. So here, the organizer of this dolphinarium can easily say, it is not, they are not motives of hooliganism. I'm doing it for business. So it is not a presence of minors. Indeed, I did not allow minors or press or not authorized individuals to the backstage. They were invited to the swimming pool where those dolphins can perform, but those beluga whales, but they were not allowed to see that. You see that this picture is taken in a hidden way with a drone because people were not allowed to look at that. So they say, we excluded the presence of minors to look at that. Sadistic method, well, sadistic methods are described in the definition of, in interpretation by scholars that, like for instance, burning alive or skinning the animal alive. So this, well, sadistic methods are, but in any case, even if you say that they are sadistic methods, there are no injuries and there is no death as such. The animals who stayed, they stayed about 1 week in those conditions. They did not die somehow. So it is not punishable under the criminal code. So when this photo and similar photos, you can easily find them in internet, when this kind of photos started circulating in Russian Federation, raising a big protest in public, the Dolphinarium traveled to Kazakhstan, where it was unknown, where it is not punishable under the criminal code, and so successfully performed in the city of Almaty. Now, you see even from this picture that it is a very limited space that they use. The light is unnatural, people, crowd, loud noises, and so on. So again, to underline that the conditions are absolutely not those, not close to those natural. To say, for fairness, the Dolphinarium was closed after several years of this life. Dolphinarium was closed, but only after the 2 beluga whales died because of these poor conditions. They died with their natural death because of illnesses, because of well, illnesses, but there were no direct connections, so no criminal punishment. Looks sad, but let's look at the perspectives. So for now, it looks really sad. Dolphinariums are not mentioned. Aquariums are mentioned in some strange contexts and are purely or almost not regulated. All our hope is for the perspectives. Currently, I'm involved in this process of drafting of animal welfare law of Kazakhstan. It will be called Law on Responsible Treatment of Animals. And the first thing that is revolutionary probably for our legislation is that it gives the definition of dolphinariums and it bans both delphinariums and mobile delphinariums and mobile zoos. It bans all sorts of delphinariums. For the moment, the draft law is being discussed by different state authorities. So I'm not sure, I cannot promise, I cannot be 100% sure that it will come out with this ban, but it already passed several instances, and this ban was confirmed by several instances. So on the other hand, we have quite a strong lobby for delphinariums. So maybe we cannot be completely sure in this future. However, we have this, at least this hope. In addition to complete ban of delphinariums and complete ban of mobile zoos and mobile circuses, so any kind of things, our local or imported from other countries. Also, the law specifies the term of cruel treatment so that it expands the definition that is given in the criminal code. We hope that this law will come into force this year, although it seemed that it was discussed to enter into force last year for December, then it was postponed for July. Now they're talking about that maybe till the end of this year. But a lot of work has been done, so quite soon, if not this year, early next year, it will come into force. In absence of law, what can we do? Well, the first thing is, once you know which are the problems, you inform your colleagues, your peers about those problems. And the most important thing, you simply do not go to delphinariums. This is not the only example which I bring here, but is one of the examples that in 2015 in Finland, this Sarkaniemi dolphinarium was closed because of lack of demand. So simply the business did not bring any profit anymore. So they closed the dolphinarium. As long as there is a demand, there will be certain supply, or there will be a temptation to provide the supply. There will exist this lobby for delphinariums. And this is something we do not want. So if, I don't know, your children's classmates want to go to delphinariums, or your younger sister or younger brother wants to go there, keep in mind that it has no scientific value, no educational value, no aesthetic value, and that is pure cruelty towards sentient and intelligent creatures. Here are the sources which I used, and I think with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I think it's very important to shed light on this heartbreaking issue, I would say, especially in Kazakhstan, because as you mentioned during your presentation, the operation of this type of business is not regulated, which is sad, and I'm not even mentioning basic cruelty to animals. Now we're shifting to our questions. The first question is there the Animal Protection Act in Kazakhstan? Aquatic animals are often excluded from legal protection. What would you recommend in this case, and how can we involve more people in raising awareness about aquatic animals at the same level as companion animals?
Mm-hmm. Well, indeed, I partly answered this question already. It is a very good question. As my presentation has demonstrated, indeed, aquatic mammals are practically not regulated at all in our legislation. Some norms can be stretched over aquatic animals as well. For example, rules of keeping animals in captivity and semi-captivity in some cases, but still the norms are not precise. For instance, these rules of captivity and semi-captivity contains an annex with a table with a list of different animals and with the amount of space, minimum space necessary for that animals. For instance, if one wants to keep them in a zoo or keep them as pet or whatsoever. And it is quite a long list of different animals, but still aquatic animals are not there. So many animals are mentioned, even suricats are mentioned, but aquatic animals are not there. So I absolutely agree that they are under-regulated and probably this second part of the question with raising awareness, well, what we do, what the YALA Center does, its institute does, is exactly that, to inform as many people as possible about those issues. Well, and me as university professor, I also put my small contribution to this.
Thank you. What's your opinion on Taiji dolphin hunt? Do you think it's racism to address the issue of this type of hunting? Thank you.
I have not studied deep this question, I must say. I came across some horrifying pictures in the internet. I know that there are protests against that. I know that there are attempts, or maybe even they were banned. This type of hunting was banned. Unfortunately, I do not know details. But well, certainly before killing any living creature, there should be a strong scientific basis for that. We understand that we cannot fully prohibit hunting because still we have our anthropocentric approach, still we see certain types of wild animals as or their interests, let's say like this, their interests overlap with ours. So hunting is necessary as a mean of regulation of quantity of those population of those animals. I do not know much to tell whether this is the case with that whales or not. So I cannot give more details on that. But in any case, under any hunting, there should be a solid scientific basis and a demonstrated necessity of that.
Okay. What campaigns would you suggest to promote freeing animals in captivity?
Well, I'm a lawyer. Campaigns is not my specialty. I can support something. I can sign a petition, but I'm not a specialist in campaigns or in demonstrations or in this. My profession is different. My job is different. I'm informing people. I'm informing people through participating in webinars like that, through conducting my classes, through my publications. So I have a little bit different specialization. So I cannot tell which mechanism would be more effective for Kazakhstan in this case. So I'm making my contribution. I'm doing the best I can as university professor. And if somebody of you wants to organize an event in order to promote banning the dolphinariums, I might consider supporting it, but I cannot advise on that question.
Okay, we have our last question. Is it more efficient to regulate dolphinariums or ban them completely? What will be the better consequences for animals?
This is a very good question, and actually it is it raises a very deep problem, because it touches upon also the discussion of zoos, of and in general, if we start thinking deeper in general about human and animal interaction, how far should we go in this relation with the animal? If it is an animal who was in difficulty in her or his natural habitat, whether do we need to help to provide veterinary assistance, or we should leave it like this? I can tell that with regards to Kazakhstan, that where we do not have those aquatic animals in nature except for the seals, and where the climate is very different, where the especially in Almaty, but also in most of the cities, the air is very dry. So it is quite a particular thing. It is more effective and more appropriate to ban dolphinariums completely. There are countries where they have exit to the sea and where dolphins live naturally, and where they manage to organize dolphinariums in a way, or not dolphinariums, but performances which involve dolphins, where dolphins have access to their natural habitat, where they can go to the wild sea, but they can come back and to perform when they feel so. If there are countries which can organize the performance of aquatic animals in that way, probably the regulation is appropriate. With regards to Kazakhstan, I see only the banning as the only option.
Okay, thank you. And that's it for questions. Thank you again, Maria, for being our guest and for all the work you're doing for animals. The recording will be up this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media to get the recent updates.
Thank you very much again for invitation. Again, I want to repeat that it's a great honor for me to speak here, and I am happy to contribute to your wonderful project. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.